Good afternoon, everyone. All right, let's try again. Good afternoon. Paul got me discombobulated up here. Welcome back for the closing plenary session of the napsa conference. My name is Kez Wold. I'm the Associate Commissioner for Adult Protective Services in the state of Texas. And I pay them, so it's cool. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the person you voted in as president of napsa yesterday. So I'm excited to be here, and thank you very much for that great honor. This has been an amazing conference. A huge shout out to napsa and to the state of New Mexico and the city of Albuquerque for hosting us. This has been incredible. So many different options, so many different areas to learn. So many different opportunities to network and to share some of our, what do they say? Misery loves company. Sometimes it's miserable to work in APS. It really is, let's be honest. But when we get together and we talk to people from across the country and from other countries and from territories, and we get to realize, you know what? We all do this work. We all have these challenges. It helps me, at least. It helps me feel like I'm making a difference. And we're all working to make a difference in the lives of the vulnerable people that we serve. So I want to give, once again, a huge thank you to napsa for making this possible, to New Mexico for making it possible, but also a huge thank you to each and every one of you who in your daily roles are making the lives of the people we serve better, safer, and really making a huge difference. So thank you all. Now I'm going to have to read this because it is my pleasure and my honor to introduce the Zuni dancers, and I'm going to make sure I say this correctly, the Silicion traditional dancers. This group was founded by their late parents in 1983. The Silicion traditional Zuni dancers, in the entire dance group, consists of 15 family members and is made up of second, third, and fourth generation performers. Under the direction of Fernando Silicion, the group has become one of the top professional touring Native American dance companies in the performing arts. They're world renowned for their performances of traditional Zuni social songs and dances. They've performed throughout the US, Canada, Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Southeast Asia, and the South Pacific. They told me it was a 2.5-hour drive to come in today. I told them, that's nothing. You guys were in Mongolia. Amazing. The Silicion dancers became the first native tribe, once again, to perform in Mongolia. They have performed at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., at the Library of Congress, where their songs were placed in the National Archives, at Carnegie Hall in New York City. The director, Fernando Silicion, is also an internationally renowned flutist and a recording artist with 12 recordings. The group is fluent in the Zuni language and participates in year-round in their cultural community activities. Please join me in welcoming the Silicion traditional dancers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor for us to be here before you. I'd like to explain a little bit about the dancers, so you won't be up in the air about what we're doing here up here. But this dance is called the star dance, as you can see. Long before modern technology, our ancestors knew quite a bit about the heavenly bodies above. And of course, always, our ancestors used the stars for navigation, as it is done even as of today. And things that they had found interesting, today the scientists that find interesting are all people had always known. Around the rock joints that we have on the walls of the canyon, in Chaco Canyon, there is a depiction, a drawing of the Crab Nebula that last exploded in 1054 AD. Things like this are recorded throughout this land here. In this dance, you'll see that all the elements of the heavenly beings are on the headdresses here. Of course, the blue represents the blue sky, the black sky. In the front, you see the resemblance of a cloud. And on the outer parts of this, you'll see a black and white line. This represents the Milky Way, where our ancestors still walk upon to watch the people and Mother Earth. And all in total, there are 6 stars. In many of the people here, they say there's 4 directions, but in the Pueblo world, there are actually 6: north, south, west, east, zenith, and a nadir. So we call all those as directions. And so there's always 6 stars within this headdress. And on top of the headdress, you see the 3 main stars that we have: the white one, the morning star; the orange one, the evening star; and the blue one, the most important star, the North Star. We do this dance in hopes that since the stars have always been up there for a long, long time, we do this dance in hopes that all will have long, healthy, prosperous lives. For when we as Zuni sit down and pray, we not only pray for ourselves or for the other Indian people, but our prayers pertain to all mankind, hoping all would have long, healthy, prosperous life. And after this last dance here, if anyone's interested, if there's time available, we'll make ourselves available for you. If you're not from around here, we'll make ourselves available if you'd like to take pictures with us or of us. You're welcome to do so. And of course, we'll always make ourselves available for the most important selfie for your phone here. So again, I hope you enjoyed our dances here. Again, this is done in hopes that all will have long, healthy, prosperous lives. Thank you very much. Have a good stay here in New Mexico. Thank you.
All right, look, this is a pretty good turnout for the last day of the conference, and I know people are flying out, and we just had a great Zuni dance. That was incredible. It woke me up. So I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote closing speaker, who I've done a podcast with recently. And thank you to Bill for recommending her. She was in Tennessee at their state conference. And Taryn Hughes is our compassion fatigue therapist and CEO of Forrest Hughes and Associates. The work you all do is incredibly taxing on your emotions, your body, your everything. So she is going to really help us in how you process everything, right? She's headquartered in New York City. Don't hold that against her. I love New York, but I do too. So she trains frontline professionals to prevent and mitigate work-related compassion fatigue and vicarious trauma through evidence-based professional development programs and leadership coaching support, believing that those who help and protect others deserve exceptional care, and you do. Her work addresses the emotional complexities and exhaustion that come with supporting our community's most vulnerable people. Her programming has gained international recognition, including government acclaim for its trademarked methodology in addressing secondary trauma at work, traumatic stress at work, Participants describe her programs as life-saving and the only training that speak to the people on the ground, those that are doing the work, that are in the homes, seeing the trauma. Ms. Hughes holds credentials from the Green Cross Academy of Traumatology and the International Association of Trauma Professionals. She is certified in dialectical behavior therapy, psychological first aid, and crisis response, somatic therapy as well. Additionally, she has specialized training in the mental health needs of law enforcement and recovery coaching from Texas State University. So please help me welcome Taryn Hughes.
Thank you. Thank you for the pause for the photo op. So I'm very, very excited to be here today. I have so much to share with you. I'm from New York City, so originally from Detroit, but have been in, yes, Detroit or New York. And so one of the things is being from New York, I want to jump in and make sure that things really get actioned, so that we're not staying and overwhelmed with slides, that we're actually thinking and doing and communicating. So hopefully everybody has somebody near them. Does this sound better? Okay, perfect. So everybody hopefully will have a partner to talk to, because we will have an opportunity to talk to each other. Today we're gonna go over compassion fatigue and vicarious trauma. And we're looking at three aspects. So we'll be talking about the human and the personal side, the organizational components, and also the future and what that can look like. Today's going to be interactive, so we're going to reflect, discuss, go through some experiments, and then also any information that you're sharing with each other, see if you can keep it confidential so that you can feel really safe to speak openly. And I'll start with my favorite quote, which is, "I come as one, I stand as 10,000." Miss Maya Angelou said these words, and there's something that has informed my work, because every time I step into a space, I think that while we're all here in this room, the information and the change that you're going to deliver is going to go back. So essentially, you're standing for the 10,000 people which will be affected and impacted by the change that you make, hopefully after today's presentation. So let's start with some common ground. As mentioned, we're going to jump in to the action material, but we'll briefly start with what what is compassion fatigue? I'm going to use the word traumatic stress because there's a number of different terms. We can talk about vicarious trauma, compassion fatigue, secondary traumatic stress. Some use empathetic strain. But essentially, it's traumatic stress. And traumatic stress is very different than burnout. So we think about everyday stress, and that can lead to burnout when our caseloads are high, when we have lots of paperwork to file, when we're sitting in rush hour traffic, when we're running late. That's a certain kind of stress that every human being experiences at some point. But traumatic stress is a little bit different. So instead of inundating you with slides of definitions, I'm going to ask you to join me in this experiment so you can actually feel the difference in your physical body. And that will essentially clarify why we need different supports for ourselves in the work. So if you can get comfortable in your chair, wherever you're at, just put your phones down. This will take only maybe 2 to 3 minutes at the most. Just checking that this is working. Great, thanks. So if you can, just cast your eyes down and turn your focus towards yourself, whatever that means for you. And I'm going to read a few words. These words will make you feel happy and relaxed. And then I'm going to just share some words that might cause stress. Then we'll go back to the happy, relaxed words. And then I'll share some words that might cause traumatic stress. So first you get your baseline and you start to feel if you have any tension in your body, any pain. Notice if your breath is shallow or deep. And just imagine sunshine and clear blue skies. Green grass, maybe even giggling babies or your little cute puppies. And just feel yourself become really relaxed, knowing that it's safe right here and right now. And sometimes in life, there's deadlines, rush hour, a packed schedule. Maybe we're running late, or we have a full inbox of people we need to respond to. Just notice if there's any place in your body that tenses up when you start to think about rush hour, schedules, overflowing inboxes, deadlines. You might feel a little bit physically, you might notice your heart shift. And then think about sunshine, the clear blue skies, your favorite animals, your favorite people, anything that brings you joy, that you love, and feel safe right here and right now. And just take a deep breath in and let go of any of that stress, because you don't have to worry about any of that right now. And then notice how your body shifts when you hear the word abuse, neglect, investigation, someone being hungry, an unsafe home, or someone who's injured. Notice what happens to your body. And I want you to make note of this. If your heart beats faster, or you get a pain in your neck or the side of your head, if your stomach gets tense or you start to feel sick, this is your body cueing you that it's traumatic stress. And I'm going to bring you back to the calm place, because from here forward, we're going to talk about solutions. I won't leave you here with nothing to do. to resolve this. So come back into this space knowing that you're safe right here and right now. And just take a moment to turn to your colleague. And if you haven't introduced yourself yet, introduce yourself, get to know the people just for a moment. Just come back into this room. If you need to stretch, go ahead and reach your arms up. Yes, stretch deeply, breathe deeply. Yes, come back into this room. So that, although it's uncomfortable, there's great information that you can use. Because when you're going through your day and you start to feel that specific response, you know that the traumatic stress is impacting you. And so now we're going to talk about what to do about it. Before we move forward, did anybody not have a reaction? Raise your hand if you didn't feel anything. Okay. I think I see one, two hands. Okay. Sometimes we can detach from the sensations and it's almost like there's a wall that comes up, so we create distance. So you can investigate that yourself and notice that if your emotions are staying really flat, if there's flat affect, if you're not feeling something, then that could also be traumatic stress. So just one note, could we get the clock updated just so I make sure that we stay on time? So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to talk about the human personal side. We're starting here together. Does anybody question that we need some support for traumatic stress? Is there anybody who's not bought in? Raise your hand if you're like, oh, I don't need this. My staff doesn't need it. Okay, and so everybody's bought in. Good. I'm going to teach you a few things, and some of them are going to be physical exercises. I'm doing this first because guess what? You're human too. I don't know if you realize this, but credentials, they don't protect you from traumatic stress. So you're actually a human being. You have a heart. You have emotions. You're all incredibly intelligent. You do phenomenal work. And there's no way to do work and not be impacted. So let's find a way together. I'm going to start with a few body-based exercises to be able to shift you into a calm state. Then we're going to put some music on. And then after that, we're going to go into the organizational case studies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to get both the information and the experiential. So right now is experiential. I'm going to ask you we're going to start with thank you for the quick switch with the mic. I'm going to start with the butterfly hug, and you're just going to take both hands up, and you're going to cross them over your chest. And like a butterfly, well, unlike a butterfly who flaps both of their wings at one time, we're going to be a little bit awkward. We're going to do one hand and then the other hand, and one hand and then the other hand. So this is a very calming technique. It's hard to feel calm when we're in a room of maybe hundreds of people, but I promise you if you try this at home, it's going to make a difference. So just cast your eyes down, and I want you to move a little bit right and left while you continue. Just going one hand and then the other, one and then the other. Great. Now I'm going to ask you to get out of your comfort zone. Stand up with me briefly, and we're going to do the standing, but you're going to rock back and forth. So we're going to go 1 and 2. Thank you. And you're just going to rock back and forth. Great. So you can do this at home. You can do this anywhere you want. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and lift up on your toes, hang on to a chair. Lift up on your toes, and I want you to drop your heels really strong. Good. Drop your heels. Good. We'll do it 3 more times. Just drop your heels. Wonderful. Good. So when you're stepping out of a situation, you can try a few of these techniques. I'll give you one last one. You're going to find the space in your ear. There's the hole. It's hard to describe, so follow me here. There's the hole. Don't go in the hole. There's a little hole above the hole, but it's below the other hole. And you're gonna draw little circles. So all of these things are really to start to stimulate the vagus nerve. Different tools work differently on different people. So you want to keep doing a circular massage in one or both ears. So you have the butterfly hug, where you're rocking, the heel drop, and just this sort of reset button in the center of the ear. And now this last one is my favorite. I'm hoping, does anybody have coordination in here? A little bit? Okay, good. Okay, so this is, we're gonna be stimulating both the right and the left side. So have a little bit of space if you can, and you're just gonna step apart, and then you're gonna step together. Good, and you're gonna step apart, and then step together. So you're going one direction, yeah? Good, and then we're gonna go the other direction. Great, good. Good. And then we'll go twice in one direction and twice in the other direction. So we're going to go 1, 2. I promise this is the last one. 1, 2. And cue music, please. So here's the surprise. You did not realize that you just learned the bachata here in New Mexico. So here we go. Anybody know the bachata? Yes. Step together, step. Yes. So we have a full 30 seconds, and now you're all bachata dancers. You can go home back to, yes. And if you want to get fancy, go ahead and give a little turn. Good. Don't be afraid to put your arms into it. Good. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for participating. So one of the quirky things we do when we're helping others is that we forget about ourselves and we forget about our successes. So just a brief tip, make sure to celebrate your successes and have some fun in life. It helps. Okay, so let's jump into some examples. I'm going to go through these quickly. So there's a number of leaders here in this room. And whether you're a leader or you're working independently in the field or you're working on the team, I'm thinking you're going to be able to relate to this. So like many of you, this leader that I worked with and do work with survived really hard circumstances in his life, was really let down by systemic betrayal, was on a mission to help other people, built an organization, and eventually achieved global recognition, and in turn actually saved thousands of people's lives, and is still legitimately doing this. Those numbers are correct, it's not an exaggeration. And then, on this leader's journey, they developed a lot of symptoms of traumatic stress. So maybe you can relate to this: high blood pressure, gaining weight, having trouble sleeping, feeling more inflamed and puffy, getting sick a lot. But this particular person also had really high anxiety, which is really common in fields like this. Panic attacks, so bad that he had to go to the ER. And sometimes it was to the point that it shut down basic functioning. So the traumatic stress had gotten really intense. And there was some anger and irritability. But I'm here to bring the message of hope, because after working together with him and his team, there were a number of symptoms that really diminished. So the status of him today is that, yes, there's still some weight challenges that he's actively addressing, and it's actively shifting. That's one of the last symptoms to resolve for him. And then there's the mild anxiety and some fatigue, because that's normal when you're going through healing. And there's still some emotional isolation, because as many professionals, our social lives shrink and our work takes up more space on the weekends. It takes up more space in our minds. It comes into our bedrooms and goes to sleep with us in a way. So there's an active way that you need to pay attention to your own self and your own life to make sure that it's your own individual life is expanding and not shrinking. And that can be in also relationships, activities, etc. There is a worksheet in your resources that's now on the event app, so you can look for that. And if you can all make a promise to me that you're going to go home and do this review and reset workbook sheet, that would be great. So what it does is when you walk out of a critical incident, or when you're going home at night, or when you're going home on the weekend, you can actually drop some of the impacts. Like it's a protective measure to take away some of the strong impact that you might be feeling physically or emotionally. So if you can start to implement that, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. But I think it's page 4 in your resources. And I want to jump really briefly to organizational solutions, because there's some great case studies here. And again, these are all going to be linked in your resources, so you can go and actually read the legislation that I'm going to discuss here. This was 2011, I believe, that there was a foundational case that came out of Victoria, Australia. And I'll keep it brief, that essentially there was a prosecuting attorney who was prosecuting sex crimes against children. And they developed PTSD to the point that she was unable to continue her work. She then sued the state of Victoria and won. So there's a high court decision that was talking about how it's important to understand, it's important for employees and therefore supervisors and managers to understand that there is a risk of psychiatric injury in certain fields, and APS would, of course, fall in that field. Now, that was later reversed, but there have been significant changes across the whole state of Victoria as a result. So they have changed a lot of practices with their emergency service workers, and I was involved in part of that consulting. There is a case study, if we jump back to the national level, there's a case study that I'll highlight up in Washington State, which you're going to be at next year, right? Yes. Okay, who's going to be in Washington next year? Yes? Okay, good, good, good. So essentially, the Washington legislative body decided that there was a need to put some broad protections in for educators in the public school system. And so in their legislation, they cited that secondary traumatic stress, also called compassion fatigue, is a natural but disruptive set of symptoms that may result when one person learns of another person's traumatic experiences. And they cited that feelings of isolation, anxiety, physical ailments, sleep disturbances, changes to memory and perception were all an outcome of being exposed to the young people's trauma. So what did they do? They actually mandated that all educators have access to self-assessment tools, that they're regularly going to be starting assessments across the state of educators to see how they're being impacted and at what rate. And they're also being mandated to provide resources and training. So this is really interesting as we bring these two foundational cases, which again are linked in your resources. When we look at the final federal rule for APS, and Jennifer, I just want to lift you up for citing this and sending this documentation. It was so helpful. So there's the section listed, and if you can look at the point 2 on the screen, it says ensure the safety of APS clients and workers. And I think that when we think of safety, we're forgetting the possibility of psychiatric injury. And so this is really a stand to talk about the importance of when you're going out to implement trauma-informed practices, that you can start to look to your right and look to your left and look at yourself and remember you're human too. Your staff is human too. So it's not just protecting their physical bodies, it's protecting them mentally and emotionally. there's a concept where I coined the phrase hierarchy of pain, which is, I think sometimes as professionals we can diminish the impact that our work is having on us. So this diagram, I attempted to illustrate that at the bottom we have the general society, and of course every human being lives through tough times. And then you have an individual at a crisis point, which is who you're often serving and caring for. And for them, the rupture is quite big and disruptive in their life. And then a little bit higher up, and again, it's not about the hierarchy, but just, to get this imagery, there's the professional who will have at least 30, 20 to 30 cases, and you multiply that by the weeks of the year, and you multiply that by the years that you work. So you think about the exposure is going to be up into the hundreds or thousands. And then if you think about the leadership's position, they're often in contact, again, they're maybe a couple steps removed from the critical incident, but they're still dealing with a very high quantity because they're having input from many different channels, and there's many different reports and people reporting to them. So even though it might seem you're not as close to the exposure and that you're not living through it, I don't want you to diminish the impact, because you probably all felt it in your bodies, that when you multiply that by hundreds or thousands over a career, that it does make a difference in your life. So the leader, there's this change point where essentially from the top, looking at the overview of the legislation, some of the cases, I encourage you to look on the CVent platform and click those hyperlinks, that you can see that you're in a position to affect change. So it starts with you. It starts with working and getting support, like the leader that I showed you earlier. He reached out for one-on-one support. Then he reached out for consulting for policy change and staff training. So it starts to move down. And when we think about trauma-informed practices, what better way to ensure presence, connection, calmness, a sense of calm that they're providing for the people that you're servicing in your county, your state, your district? What better way than to have someone walking in the door that's well, that has people that have their back? And I know you're already doing a phenomenal job, and I know that there's such a tight-knit community, and we'll just expand upon what that means by saying, hey, when you get out of a situation, it's not just debriefing about the facts, about what happened, which can increase triggering for any of the professionals that are in the room. But it's also debriefing with each other to say, how are you doing after that? How is this affecting you? Do you need something to eat? Do you need something to drink? Because a lot of times when we're locked into a trauma response, we forget to eat, we forget to use the bathroom. Can anybody give some affirmation? Raise your hand if you've ever done that. If you've gone, you're like, oh, I haven't even eaten anything today. Yes, exactly. Happens all the time. So we have 3 minutes left, and because I want this information to land with you, I want you to turn towards your colleague and think about, what would success look like? You don't have to solve all the problems. This is really a big picture question. You just got a short overview of case studies and how things are evolving. You felt the personal impact, so I'm guessing you want to do something. So think about, what would success look like if you focused on getting support for yourself and your colleagues to prevent the psychiatric injury of traumatic stress? Go ahead and just take a minute or two to talk and think about your ideas. Okay, great. Let's come back and start to wrap up. So in order to love our jobs deeply, we must be capable of feeling deeply. And I know that after thinking about how we're being impacted by work, we might want to tense up, create distance, not come together as deeply with people. But that's actually not the answer. And the research shows that it's important that we feel, because then we can also feel the rewards. We can feel the passion and the mission, and we can feel that our work is important. And that's really vital for resilience. And I will also highlight the fact that when we live through hard things, it grows us. So don't be afraid of what the impact is, because we're growing, we're transforming as people, as human beings. And so beyond resilience, this post-traumatic growth is about a transformation, and you essentially cultivate wisdom, and that wisdom stays with you for your life. It's something that nobody can take away from you. And that makes you who you are, and that's why people in your life really care about you. And if I can leave you with a concept of this 360 degrees of compassion, and I keep reiterating this, that you're human too, that trauma-informed also includes you. Trauma-informed, it doesn't mean everybody else gets to be safe and cared for, and you're thoughtful towards how you communicate, and then you come back and you're not cared for, or people are not thoughtful about how they communicate to you, right? It's all around. So it's 360 degrees. And I think about it as if you're preparing for, and you're responding to, and you're accepting the human side of yourselves and your colleagues. And I know Jennifer and I, she was so kind to host me on the podcast. And on that podcast, there's some really vital information that will supplement the information that you're getting in your resources. So on that podcast, I walk you through how to debrief with colleagues after you move out of a critical incident. You have in the printable worksheets on the CVent platform, you have the worksheet that you can use over and over and over. So make a lot of copies for yourself. So you have the individual debrief. On the podcast, you have the debrief with a colleague. Those two things alone are going to start to change things for you. I promise that. And my name's Taryn. Obviously, you have my information. If you want to take a photo and reach me directly, that has the inquiry on it. You can use my first name at my company. I'm always happy to answer any questions. And this is such an important topic. I hope that you can go back and brainstorm on the visioning and think big picture first. Think ideal. Think of, if you were to change the future of APS, what would that look like to include all the APS professionals and allied professionals in this trauma-informed support, hug, protection? What would that look like? And please turn to your colleague and just say, it applies to you too. Just so that you get it in your mind, just one last time, that we're talking about you too. You deserve protection too. You deserve consideration and support too. Because I know how we're wired. We're ready to pass it on before we soak it in. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, safe flight home. It was so wonderful being with you, and thank you so much.
All right, you guys, we're in the long stretch here. I just want to close this out by saying a few thank yous, because without New Mexico, without the Convention Center staff, without napsa staff, specifically Esther, Tamisha, you guys, I hope a lot of you met Esther last year, and a lot of you met Tamisha this year, and Esther as well. And without those four, really, none of this would have happened. So I really have to express a huge round of applause to them. And Taryn's documents are now in the app. They weren't when she started speaking, but they're in there now, just so you know, in case you looked. And with this, I'd like to introduce Kathy Morgan, the Director of APS in the state of Washington, and she'd like to say a few words about 2025. Let me step down.
Huh?
Step down. Let you take over.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'm only going to say a few words because I know everybody wants to get on the road and get out of here. But I'm very happy that Washington will be co-hosting the 2025 napsa conference in Bellevue, Washington. It's 9 minutes from downtown Seattle, so we're really excited. Please take the luggage tags, your postcards on the tables. Take a bunch of them, take them back to your coworkers, your stakeholders, your tribes, and hand them out. Give them to your leadership so you can get registered for next year's conference, and I look forward to seeing you all in Washington next year. Thank you.